Hi, I'm Liss, and the name of the program is The Way to Go. I invite you to join me each week at this time as we explore places to go and things to do. Today we're going to be visiting with one of the star performers in City of Angels at the Westchester Broadway Theater. He's Ron Holgate, who has a long record of Broadway hits, and we're going to learn all about them. And I'm delighted to have him here with us today. Ron, it's good to see you here and to talk about City of Angels and some of the other things you've done. You've done so many important roles, and is there a favorite? Is there one that you like playing more than the others?
I usually get attached to the role I'm doing at the time. However, there was one show, I guess when you start out in the business, your first break is the one that sits in your brain with the most predominance. And a funny thing happened in the way the Forum, which I did on Broadway in the original company, was a show that I really loved, and it's just sitting here talking about it now. It's just kind of funny because Larry Gelbart was one of the authors of that script, along with Bert Shaveloff, and now here I am, a few years later, doing City of Angels, which Larry Gelbart wrote as well. Right. So it's kind of a full circle sort of thing. But anyway, funny thing happened the way the Forum was a great show.
Aside from being a show in which you got an awful lot of attention, and what was it about the show that gave you so much pleasure? It gave me a lot of pleasure in the audience.
Well, first of all, the whole story behind the Forum is kind of a theater classic story as how it became a success, because the show originally, when it opened in New Haven and Washington, D.C., was a big flop. Yes, it didn't do well at all. I can remember playing matinees in Washington. There were like 100 people in the audience. And it wasn't until the opening number, Comedy Tonight, was put into the show, which was staged by Jerome Robbins, and it wasn't put in until we came to New York and started previews, that the show all of a sudden took off. I guess the problem was that there used to be an opening number called Love is in the Air, which people who are Sondheim fans probably have heard on various albums. But that show was a kind of a romantic little love ditty about springtime and love, and it set the audience up in an incorrect frame of mind to accept the zany farce that then followed. So it wasn't until Comedy Tonight came along that the show was a big success. But then playing the show for those 2.5 years was how long I did it, and all the various old comedic actors who were in the movies.
But starting, of course, with the great Zero Mostel.
Was Zero Mostel, Jack Gilford, Davy Burns, John Carradine, Ray Walburn, and then in comes people like Mort Marshall and Dick Shawn and Danny Dayton. And,
now, I saw the show, and I have the feeling, and they'll tell me if I'm right, that you arrive on a horse.
No.
But that's the impression that I have, that you came in on a horse.
No, actually, my first entrance was, I stood off stage and I said, "Stand aside, everyone. I take large steps." And then I marched on with the Proteans, and that was a big.
Well, I'm sorry, but I remember a horse.
I guess I made the right impression.
Before we get to the details on City of Angels, which is one of my favorite shows, which I saw on Broadway, and I really think here at the Westchester Broadway Theater is a smash because of all things that can happen on that stage. Some of the other things, you won a Tony for 1776. You played Lee, did you?
Richard Henry Lee.
Here a Lee, there a Lee, everywhere
right.
a Lee was the number, which I remember very clearly. And more recently, What else have you been doing on Broadway? I know you've done a lot of other things.
Well, I did after that show. I did a couple other shows that were quite good. One was would be called A Failure, which I always thought was a very good show, and I was very upset that it wasn't more successful. And that was a show called The Grand Tour, which was written by Jerry Herman and Michael Stewart.
Right.
And
But you were nominated for Tony.
Yeah, I got
a
Tony nominations for that. It was that was a show. And then, of course, most recently I've done Lend Me a Tenor, which I did in several incarnations. I did the original production, which was up in a small theater in New Hampshire. Then I went to London and did it there, and then I came and did it on Broadway, and I did the national tour of it. So I've done that many times. It's also one of my favorite shows.
And mine too.
Yeah, it's just that's a wonderful, wonderful script. You know, when you get scripts like that, it's just those are scripts to die for. You know, Forum and Lend Me a Tenor, because it's just all there, and you can't wait to dig your fingers into it and just make it work. It's just
you're so versatile, but all the roles that you're describing are different. They all have certain things in common: a big voice, tall, good looking, a certain carriage that you have. But you seem to do a lot of light things.
Yeah, comedy is something that I really enjoy doing a lot, and I find, as most people who do comedy will tell you, it's much more difficult to do comedy than it is to do something straight, because comedy that you don't sit around and let people formulate their polite opinions about. After the show, when people come back in a serious play, they can sit there. Now, what am I going to tell him? What am I going to tell him? Oh, well, it was really a joy to watch you up there on the stage or whatever, But in comedy, you have to get the laugh right away. And if they don't get the laugh right away, you can, in a show like Forum or Lend Me a Tenor, you got hundreds and hundreds of laughs, so you're constantly being accepted, rejected. Why didn't I get that laugh? You never get them all, and you always, that's what makes it fascinating, because you keep coming back, trying. Every day you come in and you think, got to get this to work, and then maybe that'll work, and then something else won't work. It's a balancing act.
And have we discussed on this program many times with the people in the theater that every audience is different.
Every audience is different. Every audience is different. Doesn't matter how many times you play a show. Every audience is. Some shows work more to automatic than other shows. A show like, say, 42nd Street or Annie, for instance, which I've done.
You've done both of those.
Yeah,
yes.
And those shows have certain things that are built into them that work all the time. But there's still within that. There's still other things that you.
I have to ask you about Annie. Now, you played Daddy Warbucks, and that wonderful white mane that you have. Did you shave your head for that show?
Yes, I did.
Is that required?
Well, I was a year tour, and so I wasn't going to put on. It's easier to shave your head than to put on one of those bald pates. That's whether a major makeup operation. So, and they never look completely realistic, so I shaved my head. What I didn't realize, it was a funny story, I didn't realize that how long it took to have your hair grow back.
I was going to ask you that
it takes
question.
about 3 months to get your hair back to anywhere near its original look. And interestingly, after I did the tour of Annie, I went into audition for David Merrick, etc., of 42nd Street, but my hair hadn't grown back yet. And David Merrick, being the literal sort of fellow he is, said, well, for heaven's sakes, he's got no hair. So Michael Stewart said, look, here's a picture. Because he wanted me to do it. And so I didn't hear anything after that original audition, and another 4 weeks or so went by. Well, more hair grew in. By that time, I came back and auditioned for him again, and then all of a sudden, I had enough hair evidently to do the part.
I always wonder if a performer is male or female who shave their hair for various roles. Do they ever worry about whether it'll come back?
Well, I'll tell you what it did. I wasn't worried about that, but what was interesting, it came back a lot grayer. I said that those little kids, they got me. I swear they got me. I thought I was handling it pretty good, but I guess not. I turned my hair to gray whether I knew it or not.
Let's talk about City of Angels. And as I've said, It's a great show. Playing it here, what does it mean? Is it a difficult show to do?
Yeah, it is. It's a tricky show. It's a tricky part for me. It's another stretch in another direction for me. I play a movie producer of a certain. He's a certain. What's the word? Stereotype, you know. And he has long conversations on phones, and he kind of talks in monologues, and Larry Gelbart kind of borrowed from various personalities that are real life personalities. One of them being Sam Goldwyn, who was famous for his Goldwynisms. You know, I mean, malaprops and big, and it's a tricky script to learn that way because you have to be wrong, but you have to be perfectly right being wrong. You know, just learning the lines like that. But and also there are a lot of scene changes in the show, and it's a hard show to get up to you know, every show has to establish a rhythm to it, you know, and when you have all these technical, it just takes a little time to get it going. So it's a tricky show to do, I would say.
I know that having seen it on Broadway, I know that the show has a lot of surprises in it, and for people who don't know what those surprises are, I just as soon not reveal them, let them just kind of develop as they happen. But there's a lot of things that are moving and changing that are taking place in the music and in the story. It certainly is different. It's
on one level you can just go and enjoy the show for what it is. You can go and sit in the audience and have a great time and laugh at that. On another level, if you're a movie buff or a buff of music of the 40s, that sort of thing, film noir movie buff, you can go and enjoy it on that level as well, because there's all kinds of references to various movies in this plot of the movie within a movie, or a show within a show, if you like, of this particular musical. And the musical references, there's some wonderful songs in the show, but they're very reminiscent of songs of that era, you know. And so the authors have created this atmosphere of the 1940s, and those great torch songs and stuff like that are all within this show.
And a show of this nature certainly lends itself to the Westchester Broadway Theater because of all the things that they built into the new theater, where they can move things around.
I played the old theater, and you know, I mean, it was funny when I walked into this theater. I said, "It's the same theater, only the stage is 3 or 4 times the size. You know, it's the same setup and everything." But the show actually should play better in this theater because it's more intimate. And I think I saw the show in Detroit when it was on the road, and in the Fisher Theater, which is a big, 2,500 seat house. And I didn't enjoy it so much because I just thought it was a too big a house. You know, I mean, the Virginia Theater, where I think it played in Broadway, it's a much more intimate house than the Fisher is. And I think the intimacy of the house will let people appreciate the show more too. There's also something else I like to say about this show, which I've come to discover now after having been working on it, is there's kind of a subliminal message in this show too.
Oh, yes?
A subliminal message coming from the author Larry Gelbart about writers and their integrity. Although it's dealt in an overt way, there's also a kind of a bitterness about it that's underneath all this, about how writers are treated out in Hollywood, which is poorly in the sea, but also the way he treats the material of the show in a way. It's in it. Next time you see the show, just see if you don't catch that.
That's an interesting point, because I have heard that when an author writes a show that is on Broadway, not a word can be changed without his permission. But when he goes out to Hollywood, he's just a hired hand, and they can do whatever they want. It's a director's medium, as I understand it.
Well, it's not only a director's medium, but it's also producers and actors. Very often, actors in film won't say the words that are given to them. They'll change them to feel more comfortable for themselves. They get really a rough deal on it. I mean, the only thing I complain about with this show is that the fact that it's a little like you sit down at a card game and all of a sudden they're doing all these things in the card game. He says, "Wait a minute, what's going on here?" It's just these are the rules. This is the way you play the game, and it's a little bit of that in this too.
Yes. Well, because they're so stylized.
Well, and I mean, it's just from the plot point of view. I mean, what the part I play, I mean, the guy's talking about this is the way the game is done as far as he's concerned. What this writer is complaining about, he doesn't know. You know what I mean? Say that sort of thing is also there. So but it's a fun show, and that there's always something going on, and there's all kinds of references to other films and stuff like that.
And what I like about the thrust stage that it is that no matter where you sit, you're really close to the stage.
Yes, it's very intimate. Yeah.
I've seen shows in big houses on Broadway from up close, and I've seen them from the last row on the balcony. And strangely enough, I've seen some shows twice. Lacage, for example, I saw the first time up close, and the second time from up in the balcony. I liked it better from afar because I got the view of the spectacle.
That's right.
And sometimes that helps. But what I like about the Westchester Broadway Theater is that no matter where you sit, people sit on three sides, of course, is that you're fairly close to the stage, so everything is
close and you're comfortable and you have an unobstructed view, and that's great. That's great, and I mean, I guess you could say we should come 3 times because there's 3 different places to sit. So you could. But it doesn't matter. I mean, you can see it's staged very carefully so that everybody gets to see everything that needs to be seen.
Now, this is a show of big voices.
Wonderful voices. Let me tell you this: you're going to hear singers in this show that I bet you outpace any other show, version of the show that you've ever seen.
Let's talk about them. Let's talk about Bob.
I want to tell you, excuse me, but I want to tell you something else. That is something that is very important, and a lot of producers, and I don't appreciate, is the fact that in order to do a musical well, you have to have people who can sing. Not necessarily the greatest voices in the world, but they have to be musical and they have to sing to get everything out of the songs. So often people hire people who they think, well, he can carry a tune, he can do this, but you don't realize how much you miss of interpreting a particular song that is taken away from that song, and you don't know it. How can you possibly know? Because you don't know what the song could be. But in this production, you're going to hear great voices. Everybody's a good singer. Everybody is a good actor. You've heard Bob Cuccioli in Phantom.
Well, yeah, and Bob's been on this program a few times, and I've watched his career, and I know he's got a
Mark McGrath has this wonderful voice.
And he's, of course, been at the theater as well.
Yeah, and the women, Jerry Sager, she could cut an album tomorrow. I mean, she is that good a singer.
And what about the voice? Where does the voice, your voice, come from? I mean, is it...
comes from here.
Do you have to work on the voice? Do you have to work on it all the time?
Of course.
And is a big voice something that you're born with, or
yes, you're born with it. It's a talent, but you have to develop that talent. You have to get a technique to use it. What has been a challenge for me is since I started out, in opera, I've done over 30 opera roles in my career, but you don't sing this music the way I would sing an opera score. I mean, this particular song that I sing in this show is a song that is more of a parlando type song. It needs to be sung, yes, but you don't sing it like I would sing Some Enchanted Evening, in a show. So I develop a technique wherein you can do both things without ruining your voice, and that's the challenge.
Of course, today everything is mic'd in the theater, and a lot of the people who are performing today, before the age of electronics, would never exist. Compare an opera singer or an old-time Al Jolson type of singer to a Bing Crosby, really going back. I mean, without a microphone, they wouldn't exist.
Right.
But the big voice is much appreciated, I think, by audiences. When that big voice booms out, mic'd or otherwise, people know the difference and they appreciate it.
Well, microphones and sound systems have become, I mean, every year, I'm sure the producers at the theater would tell you if they could, they change their sound system every year, because every year they get more sophisticated and more sensitive. So that people can, as you say, discern who has the big voice, who has this. But performing on the stage, it's a bad technique to get into this idea that just because you're wearing a microphone, you don't have to produce the energy. You should always use a lot of energy on the stage, because that has to project over the footlights. This isn't like television or the movies where the camera comes in and like literally sucks it out of you. This has to be projected. Everything has to be projected, whether you have a microphone or not. The microphone is simply there because, for instance, in a situation at the Broadway, Westchester Broadway Theater, necessity, you have your back to people at certain points, and you can't project your voice out to everybody else.
Now, what happens with someone with a big voice such as yours? Is the microphone placed further away from?
No.
So it's all done in the controls, actually, because you sing out. You don't hold back.
Yeah. No, actually, I wear my microphone. It's over my ear, almost like an eyeglasses. It's a small little thing about the size of half a fingernail.
Yeah, well, that's a game that I usually play in the theater. Is where's the microphone? Where's the microphone hidden? Yeah. And I always get a kick of when someone is wearing it on their chest, or a woman is wearing it in some jewelry. Yeah. When they have a scene where they get very close to someone and the mic is covered and you can't hear the sound.
Nowadays, they mostly try to put it somewhere on your head, so that sort of thing doesn't happen. Either in your hair, in a wig, maybe up here, over the ear, that sort of thing, which is small enough they can get away with it.
And sometimes when a woman is wearing a low-cut dress and she turns around, you can see the wire coming down her back.
Yeah, that's a problem. They have to get rid of that one. That's the next step.
That's the next wireless. Well, we still have to have the transmitter, I suppose.
Yeah, you got to have that pack.
How do you keep up, so to speak, doing the show 8 times a week? And how does a performer do that? How do you stay fresh? You said you were in form 2.5 years. That must be hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's like anything else. You have your days that you feel better, but you get it's a routine, and I find that the way to keep fresh after having done a long run of a show, there's one sure method of doing it, and that is if you pay close attention to what is being said to you and around you. Because what happens is you can literally go into automatic, and you can go off, and your mind can go literally miles away. And you're still doing the show. You're still talking. Now, when you're talking, usually you have to have a part of your brain is functioning along that line to make your mouth say the words or sing the song or whatever. But the thing is to listen very closely to what the other person is saying. If you listen closely to what the person is saying, and so that you hear every word literally that he says, then you're into the show. If you're not, and then, I mean, I'm speaking of the days when you're really tired and you don't, your concentration may not be 100%. But usually, when you're performing, adrenaline takes over. You have an audience, for instance, and you're dealing with live bodies out there who react to you on stage, and it's all part of a dynamic of energy that flows through you, and it keeps the show going.
Is that a training process? Is that something you learn when you're learning to be an actor? How to stay? And
well, a lot of this stuff, I learned is interesting. That as I said, I started out in opera, and I used to do opera in English all the time. And it was very important to us who were advocates of opera in English to get across to the audience what you were singing about, And with all the music and the difficult singing, etc., it's harder to phonate and make understood an operatic score than it is a musical comedy score. So we developed these techniques like listening. One thing, if you really listen closely, if you're a singer and you're singing blah 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 blah, and then another singer starts singing and you're over here looking around like this and not reacting and listening to what the other singer sings, then it makes it harder for the audience to understand. And that's all part of the technique.
And I guess you learn a lot from watching other actors, I suppose.
Oh, yeah, sure. Everything's stolen, There's nothing original in the world.
Really?
No, the only thing that's original is you yourself. I say this to young actors, that they're worrying about, who may give you a hard time. I can't do, if you say, do it like this, and they say, I can't do it like that. No, I must be myself. I must be original. But the point is that you can't do it like I'm doing it exactly. The idea is to get the gist of what you're doing, the idea, the germ of it, and how it works, and then do it yourself. And your own personality, if you have any talent at all, will take over. Nobody would ever know. I mean, I could tell you that I'm doing somebody famous, and you'd sit and watch me, and you would never ever know that I was doing somebody famous. I mean, maybe you could put it together if I convinced you that I was doing it, but if you just came cold, you wouldn't know. Because it's me doing it, Ron Holgate. It's not that person. I can't be that person. I'm me. And my personality is strong enough that I am going to override whatever personality the other fella had. But the stuff that he's doing and what's funny about it, those things, those are classical things that you learn,
I think the audience is going to learn a lot about Ron Holgate, the actor, the singer, the performer, the man with the glorious reborn white hair or gray hair
regrowing, right?
At City of Angels at the Westchester Broadway Theater. And of course, if anybody wants more information, they can call the theater at 914-592-2222, and we'll put that number up on the screen if people want that. And I really appreciate the fact that you came here and gave us some insights into Ron Holgate and City of Angels at the Westchester Broadway Theater, and a little insight into what Broadway and theater and the Westchester Broadway Theater is all about. It's really been a delight to have you here and to talk about it. It's a great show, and I'm sure that everybody who comes to see you is in for quite a few surprises.
Yes.
And thanks again.
Sure.
I'm Norman Liss. Our guest today has been Ron Holgate, who is giving an outstanding performance in City of Angels at the Westchester Broadway Theater. I'm sure you'll be delighted if you get to see him do it. The name of the program is The Way to Go. Join me next week at the same time, and until then, enjoy yourself.